Hello and welcome to episode 379 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. I'm Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the creator of the webcomic Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
And did you know he once body doubled for Lorenzo Lamas for the TV show Renegade? But we know him as Tony Esmond.
I used to have that barnet, didn't I?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you did. Long and luscious.
Yeah, like a brown waterfall.
I've
never watched an episode of that.
You've never watched Renegade?
No, I haven't either. I've seen the pictures of him in it.
That really surprises me that neither of you have watched that.
Too busy getting off with girls, aren't we?
Considering some of the stuff that you watch.
Mate, I've been fucking watching Knight Rider from the start this week.
Oh, one of the best theme tunes ever.
Yeah.
One of
I've
my
been
top
watching The
5
Fall
theme
Guy. That's got a good theme tune.
That's another good theme tune. My jam at the moment is the theme tune to Magnum P.I. Don't get better than that.
It doesn't. That's one of my favourite series as a kid.
Yeah. And,
Don't Eat the Snow in Hawaii. Don't Eat the Snow in Honolulu was the book that came out before that. And my dad bought me it, and it's quite a saucy detective book.
And as we all know, never mind this fucking Marvel versus DC, multiverses. Back in the day, Jessica Fletcher crossed over with Magnum. Yes, Murder, She Wrote and Magnum had a crossover. So why is anyone else bothering? There's no point.
I probably would have done.
There's no point. What, Magnum?
Yeah,
who wouldn't? Woohoo! Anyway, thank you for joining us.
Nuns don't work on a Sunday.
That's a classic scene. That is classic scene. There's a nun up a ladder with a machine gun.
It's a picture of Tom Selleck next to his throw, and he's wearing these ridiculous length shorts, and he goes, I hate to upset men out there, but this is the proper length of shorts.
Oh dear. From Magnums to comics. Yes, thank you for joining us this week, folks. We've got a fun show for you as always. We're here to entertain and probably rant about some things, but we've also got a brilliant interview on the way to you. In the
He was
form.
brilliant. Our interviewing techniques.
Oh yeah, our
really
interviews, as always, like we're terribly unprofessional, but we have a great guest on.
Yeah.
Yes, comic creator Randy Stone joins us to talk about some of his awesome comics, which are positive comics that make you want to read more and just believe in superheroes. Fancy that! It's such a strange notion that you're definitely going to be signed up for his work after this. So we won't bore you too much, and we'll get you straight to that interview straight away. But there's something else we've got to do first, isn't there? What's the thing we always do around this time?
We give a massive shout out to our host, Comic House.
Oh yes, our lovely sponsors. Like a well-oiled machine, this show. See? Don't say anything, Tony. Just because I mentioned oil.
Well-oiled.
Aren't we all? Yes.
I just sent you a good picture, though.
Yeah,
no, I'm not looking at that when I'm trying to do this. Because right now I have to thank our lovely sponsors, Comic House. Yes, the indie comic marketplace with a difference. And the difference being that they love indie comics just as much as we do. And you do. Because that's why you'll probably listen to this show, and to probably listen to us make absolute fools of ourselves. But if you go to comichouse.com, you see that there's a huge selection of titles on their database. Comics being added there all the time, and also if you self-publish, you can add your work to their database. It's another avenue to get your work out there to fresh new audience and start selling straight away. They also have an app which is brilliant. It's a subscription service, basically like Netflix for comics, only £3 a month. And you get access to an enormous library that's being added to all the time, such as, Dan, what's on there at the moment?
Well, following on from Samantha Fucks the World, Volume 1, Issue 0 last week, I thought I'd delve into the publisher Tripolis Comics and what else they've got on Comic House. And we've got Blender Volume 1, The Day of the Robots Volume 1, The Last Arrival Issue 1 to 3. Blender looks really nice, so let's take a look at that. Blender is a pulpy horror drama comedy with hints of Satanism and surrealism.
Oh.
Breaking Bad, but with horror and religious elements. There we go. So that looks pretty good. Sounds pretty good.
It's another Sunday.
Yeah, just another Sunday.
Yeah, you know it.
Satanism and Breaking Bad.
Yeah. I should start to rewatch that again. Love that show. Anyway,
Satanism?
Yeah, love that. That and Gardener's World. But you can find all of that and more on the Comic House app. So to find out more, start your 14-day free trial and just start reading indie comics like we do. Then go to comichouse.com. And thank you to them, as always, for sponsoring this unprofessional couple of hours of us rambling at each other, which we love to do every week. And we've got some ranting and raving. I think it's something we may talk about after the interview that Tony might have prepped. But
we've got that. We've got another.
Yeah, well,
thing.
we'll see.
Okay.
What's that? Well, you'll have to find out.
Wait till after the interview.
Because right now you've got something really cool to listen to instead of us rambling. Yes, here's our interview with Randy Stone.
Tonight's guest has either written, drawn, inked, or lettered various comics, including projects with Scout Comics and Arcana. Through Altruist Comics, he's published Bullet, The Sensational Swan, the Crime Haze anthology, and his collection of shorts, Death and Comics. Please allow me to introduce to the show Randy Stone. Hello, Randy.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Good to have you on, man. Pleasure. That's a cracking name you got, by the way.
Yes, it's my alter ego.
Sounds like a sort of 80s action star, which I like.
Yeah.
It would be John. They're all called John, as we know.
Yeah, John Stone. Stone.
I still can't believe that he was John Matrix in Commando. Whenever I hear that name,
he'd take you to the bank, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Oh God, don't start that.
I actually just heard about a locally filmed old show. The main character is called Constable John Constable.
The Mountie.
That just.
I don't know. It was from the 80s, so I was still a kid. I don't think I ever watched it.
Okay. I'll look it up.
Constable John Constable.
Why do I feel like I know that? I've heard that somewhere recently. I don't know why.
Well, in the Carry On movies, the constable in that was called Constable. Yeah.
Oh, God, we've already started on the
reference.
Black and white movie reference for you there.
And also, we've got into the Carry On talk, and we haven't even got.
Do you have the Carry On movies in Canada, Randy?
I'm not familiar.
Oh, good.
Good. You've stopped that conversation dead. Thank you.
Is it like Carry On baggage or Carry On like old meat? Like...
No, it's a bit worse than that. I'll send you some links.
No, don't.
It's a series of comedy, in inverted commas, British films in the 1950s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. I'm not going to say they're dated, but they're dated. But what doesn't date is making comics. And this week, we've got another international guest.
Yeah.
Because from Canada. How many Canadian guests have we had, gents?
We had Mr. Sparrow on, didn't we? We had a few now.
Yeah, a few,
Yeah.
Racking them up.
But Randy, you're from the west side of Canada, I believe. British Columbia, is that correct?
Just off the coast. The biggest city around here is Vancouver. I'm in a suburb called Surrey.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Nice. What's the comic scene like out there?
I've got a few friends, some fellow creators that we get together once in a while. I'm not really a part of a scene. I know there's more to it than what I'm involved with. There's a comic jam probably still going on. I know years ago that they were doing it every week, I think.
Oh, wow.
A little pub that they go to and pass a piece of paper around that each person takes turns drawing a panel and kind of continuing on the story. I'm not really too involved in a scene, just a couple friends that I hang out with.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I was going to say, I always envision Canada as absolutely massive and your nearest neighbours miles and miles away. I presume that's not the case, and that's me being ignorant.
Yeah, some areas would definitely be more like that, but here it's pretty dense.
Okay, that's not too bad. It's weird because I live in a dense place, and I couldn't tell you. I ain't got a comic-loving friend for miles.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the nice thing about the internet too. It kind of broke that all down. Like I didn't really have anybody to talk about comics with growing up, let alone creators. And then finally in like 1999, 2000 kind of thing, being exposed to all these other people who have the same passions, and we could make books together just through email and whatever, right?
How did you sort of get into? How did you discover comics and then think, right, I can do this. I can make comics.
Were you a fan to start with?
Yeah,
for sure. When I was a kid, like 30 plus years ago, I found Marvel Universe trading cards at a 7-Eleven, I think. And that just hooked me, all these characters. They were just so incredible, and that lit the passion for the books. Got into Jim Lee X-Men, that kind of thing.
Around that time, trading cards were great, weren't they?
Yeah, I've still got folders full of them now, yeah.
Exactly. I still have binders with all the sleeves, and each one has 9 cards, and I got 2 young kids, so a couple years ago I brought them out for them and kind of got them hooked.
You didn't let them touch them though, did you? If they damaged them, they'd have to pay, wouldn't they?
Oh, they'll pay.
I remember one series and they had the Hildebrandt brothers doing some of the art, and as a kid I was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
for sure. Yeah.
I thought this is the closest we're going to see to superheroes on the screen, and how wrong was I?
So you
Alex Ross too had that realistic stuff. Though.
Yeah.
So you started with trading cards and then moved into comics that way?
Yeah, pretty much. I think I probably owned a couple like Transformers. I know the earliest comic I remember was called The Last Starfighter. It was a movie adaptation.
Oh, yeah.
Issue 3.
Classic.
Like, so I had that, but it wasn't like I was into comics. I watched Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends when I was little. But yeah, it was the characters from those cards that just hooked me, and then I became like a Marvel zombie. I never got into DC really. And I always drew, I guess. So I did have one friend when I was young that he was more of a writer, and we kind of made our own stories together.
Oh, nice one.
And then just continued from there.
Was it a sort of comic shop thing going on where you lived? Did you have a local one, or?
There was for a short time when I got into it. It was mainly just at like 7-Eleven's corner store kind of stuff. And then there was when I was through high school, there was a bookstore that carried comics. The guy there, he was more into just these secondhand novels and whatnot, but he did have a large comic selection. That's where I had my pull list growing up.
Oh, nice one.
This is me not knowing how the world has evolved. What is the deal with like newsstand comics in like North America and stuff now? It's like 7-Elevens, because you hear so many people like the spinner racks and just in the local stores and stuff. Is that still a thing?
I don't think so. Unfortunately, I wish it was. Like that's the gateway for probably all of us in this generation that we picked it up there. You get some Archie digests at the checkout sometimes. Yeah.
And I think that's why Archie is still a big seller, isn't it? Archie, that's still doing gangbusters.
I did see one in my local supermarket. Picked up, it's like a Marvel trade, and it was half of it was like a kind of a Ghost Rider thing, and the rest of it was this reprints from the 1960s and stuff. And they wanted like £10 for it. I was like, it's a bit overpriced that for half of it. It's like for
you get all that in Double H Smith still, don't you? You get all those
same kind of stuff.
Reprints. Yeah.
It's a weird selection too, because that's not really the first thing you'd think about hooking somebody on a Ghost Rider story.
I think it's just literally because of the time of year, like maybe a bit early in October.
Put a skull on the front and
trying to get people into Halloween stuff.
I can totally see the sort of the Marvel effect though with your comics, because one thing I like about your work is the positivity and like the energy to it. You know, there's so many times, you know, we've spoke about on the show, there's only so many sort of like grim, gritty Batman vigilante, you know, when everything's dark and grey and everything feels so awful. But there's a real sort of energy and positivity to the stories that you create. Was that something like that you discovered in those books? Like for instance, a Spider-Man, there's nothing more positive than what Spider-Man... Well, I don't know what Spider-Man's like now. But, you know, there's an energy to those sort of stories. Are those the sort of like tales that you sort of lean towards?
That's 100% what I'm going for, especially with Bullet and Bullet Adventures. Just that classic superhero stuff, colorful, not ashamed of being in a costume fighting crime, because that's what heroes do. I put out a lot of maybe mature stuff, horror and crime and whatever, in my first few books that I did. And I've got 2 young boys, so I wouldn't say it's just for them, but I definitely wanted to put out some books that they could read for once, because I got these all horror things hidden from them. You know, very careful about showing them what I put out earlier. But so Bullet is a response to what I enjoyed as a kid, what I still enjoy. Like, it's just a fun genre. And then also something that I can share with my boys, and, you know, have them tie a towel around their neck and pretend to be a hero. And, you know, if it's my character, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. You did mention, I think, in the front of one of your books, you got your sons involved in doing a bit of comic book creation themselves. Was it inking? How
that was a short story in Death and Comics. They were just doing some star splatter and fingerprints.
Oh, no, that's great. Yeah,
it's barely involved, but it was fun.
Yeah, look, baby steps, as it were. Get them involved. Before you know it, they'll be producing.
He'll be working them to the grindstone. And
don't pay them.
Don't pay them.
I think we mentioned before, like this, the constant postmodern deconstruction of superheroes. So it's like, at some point, can we just have straight superheroes, please?
Yeah.
This and Bullet delivers.
Yeah.
So what kind of like creators and or titles kind of influenced your kind of approach to how you went about writing Bullet?
I don't know if I really leaned on anybody's work in particular. just the general feeling.
Yeah.
Bullet's an interesting one because I wrote the first draft of that. Must have been like 12 or 13 years ago. And I tried pitching around to companies at the time, and it didn't really go anywhere. So I shelved it for almost a decade. I came across Jordan Alseca on Twitter, and we kind of got along a bit. And I approached him about revising this thing, like breaking it down and rebuilding it into something that was better, because obviously I was missing something. It's generally the same story, but I mean, a lot of his polishing is the result of the book is from him. He's a big Flash fan too, so for a speedster, it made a lot of sense.
Nice.
But yeah, I can't point to any one creator or several creators that influenced it directly. It's just kind of that feeling. Like, even looking back, like maybe the books I think of fondly, they might be horrible now. I don't remember, but it just had that feeling of just these fun superheroes.
It definitely has that Marvel 80s feel. Was it? How would you describe that, T? That kind of.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, there's it's got that sort of feeling of a lot of the new universes we saw around that time. You know, maybe some Hard Case from Malibu or something like that as well. You know.
Okay.
Because I think the thing is with Marvel, you're always aware of this sort of massive backstory that, you know. But this is kind of fresher than that. It feels a bit fresher for me. That makes sense.
Yeah. You know, the interesting thing is that 30 years ago when I started, Marvel was only 30 years old, and Image was all coming out at that point, this brand new stuff. And when you look at what we're seeing now, a new book is the equivalent of a 30-year-old Image title. So it's just kind of strange to think how long this history is. And you know, something like Swan that I did, I kind of had an imagined history that had been around all these years and decades.
Okay.
Kind of releasing these short stories that fit in across that timeline to kind of give the sense that it was really around. But Bullet just goes back to the beginning, just like a Silver Age fun.
There was one comic that did that, and they said there were going to be 100 issues, and they would occasionally like release a cover to one of like 67, and this is, you'd see something dramatic happening. I can't remember the bloody title of it though. I thought that was an interesting idea. Say like you get the hero made in issue 1 and they die in issue 100, and then randomly you fill in bits and bobs.
Okay, like going through a back issue bin and just finding the odd, you know, finding the odd comic and trying to work it out in your own head.
Yeah, and
there's a few series I've done that with. Yeah.
Okay, but you could get like 56, and you'd get one part of the story, and then the next one would be like 75, and it would be completely different. And this would be the same with that title.
Right.
It's very tempting to do the fun bits though, and not fill it all in, isn't it? It's almost like, we've just got back from space, you know, but you can't really. You know, you'd have to go back and draw a whole space battle, wouldn't you? You know, it's like, I was thinking about it the other day with I was reading John Byrne's X-Men Hidden Years, where he came in and he had this sort of fresh take on them, where you know there's this gap between the X-Men and the Uncanny X-Men, you know, before the new X-Men sort of thing. And he'd said, look, wouldn't it be fun if we don't have any of the baggage that is sort of inevitably come through the 90s and early 2000s with the X-Men, and we have 5 characters going on adventures, there's a freshness to it. So I really enjoyed that. You know, there's no weight.
The continuity seems to bog us down a little bit, right?
Yeah, I agree.
It's hard for new readers, especially.
Yeah, I kind of straddle both sides of that fence, because I do like the kind of the adherence to kind of canon, but if it's to the point where it's absolute baggage and just oh god, like you remember when the X-Men like couldn't be recorded on video cameras and stuff,
right
in Australia. Like, I was like, oh man, why'd you put that in the story? That's that's like a millstone around their neck when forever they're going forward from there.
But then it's fun if you've got a little Easter egg later on that references that, I suppose.
But then again, every time you use a character, but even be it, you know, the smallest, you know, mutant, you have to think, right, are they a vampire at the moment, or have they lost their powers now, or you know?
Sometimes they don't bother about that, do they?
Sometimes, well, they did that with Master of Kung Fu, didn't they? They just didn't give a fuck.
But you briefly talked about Swan there. This is Sensational Swan. I just need to first I need to say that cover you did is amazing.
I appreciate that.
With Marissa,
the one piece of art I'm proud of.
With Marissa Louise, have I got that right?
Yeah, brilliant colorist, and obviously 95% of the work was done by her. It wouldn't look the same without her colors, for sure.
I do like the way that you actually put the credits of the book. They're actually street signs.
Yeah.
That is so clever. That is so clever.
For the cover art, at least, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of contributors inside.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the book itself is that's absolutely glorious. So, Bullet is one type of character, and Sensational Swan is another type of character. We've been talking around them, but for those lovely listeners who don't necessarily know who these characters are, who are they, and what are these books?
So for Swan, I came up with that years ago too. Like, my first book was Champion through Arcana, and that was around the same time I wrote the first draft of Bullet as well. And I came up with this idea for the Sensational Swan. It was a short story I did that appeared in Death in Comics, the original version. It's kind of a Batman analog. And really, that story was written as an excuse to use this character design because I thought the mask of a swan face was kind of brilliant. And just an all-white costume. So the stories came around an excuse to use this costume and character in a book. Turned out kind of interesting, exploring kind of the Batman and sidekick Robin-ish character, the Duckling, playing off Ugly Duckling, and that story was called The Ugly Truth. We find out that Swan is not who he necessarily seems. He's a psychiatrist in his alter ego, but he approaches crime fighting in a way of inspiring others by basically setting up these matches between criminals and himself.
That's a fascinating detail. A psychiatrist who's a superhero. That adds a lot of layers that I'm guessing how much research or planning and thinking about? Because whatever he says, you've got to be kind of on point with it.
Right. I think at the time, I was just finishing up my degree a couple years before that. I have a minor in psychology, so maybe that influenced me at the time. I don't know. It just felt right.
Have you ever thought about going to a psychiatrist and saying and admitting to being a superhero to them and seeing which way they go?
Where do we go with that conversation?
Yeah.
We do make a phone call, I believe. Sorry, what's that?
Oh, just an interesting take on the Batman-ish character.
Yeah.
And then just years later, I decided I'd like to do more with him, and so these other short stories that made up the Sensational Swan book just kind of rounded out tales from his history. Like, oh, here's a Batman 66 kind of inspired, just fun, silly superhero kind of thing, and then more serious, grim and gritty stuff just throughout that.
Do you think that the short format is, with an issue like you've created for Swan, is a great way to explore an independent comic superhero? Because rather than having them get invested in like a bigger, longer form story, you really got to be short, they got to be concise, and they got to be punchy, haven't they? Each of these, But with an anthology, you can tell several different sides to a character. Plus,
there's no pressure on putting a comic out, every 4 weeks. Then is there? I'm guessing.
Exactly. Yeah. As I've learned, I'm almost 4 issues deep into Bullet Adventures. It's a huge financial commitment and time commitment and whatnot. So to try to put out even a 6-issue series or something like that is never going to happen for indie comics. Like, that takes such a long time and effort and everybody contributing and everything. But the other side of that is just putting out short stories. You can hire an artist or work with writers and whatever to do this little short that doesn't take up your life for a whole year. Yet it tells a story, and then you've got that little aspect of the character developed.
How do you go about kind of getting creatives on board for your comics? Are they kind of like friends, or you put out calls on social media? How do you go about it?
That one black and white story in Swan was written by my friend John, but for the most part, they're all just people I've met on Twitter. Like 99% is Twitter. I gravitate to creators there, and I approach ones that I feel are interesting. I'll do the odd call out. The colorist Fran from Bullet Adventures issues 2 and on, that was a response to a call out I did, which I'm just so grateful that she happened to come across that and got in touch with me, because she's brilliant. Most times they don't work. A lot of times you just get a lot of, I don't know, not the best quality, or not people who are even comic artists responding to this.
Yeah, I've done it before, and I got a lot of people who seem to be very expensive, Randy.
Yeah.
They were saying, "Oh, I'm a colorist. It'll be £400 a page," and I'm really, "Oh, really? Right. Are you coloring for at the moment?"
Yeah. Right. When you ask for previous examples, they kind of, it's a bit done on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. What have you done?
Well, you get that lovely reply. You're not paying for the color. You're paying for the 30 years of experience I've got. And I said, "Fuck that." I don't say that to the plumber.
But I was talking to another creator during the week, and we were saying about artists that work in a really super detailed style. And if you'd put in a comic book out, and the first couple of pages are absolutely fantastic, they're flying. And then when you hit sort of like 7, 8, 9, 10 pages, and you realise, God, I'm only halfway through this, and I've put in all this work in, and I've got to see this through right to the end. I think a lot of artists definitely make that mistake of not realising how much of work a comic takes to do.
Eddie Campbell says that about From Hell, doesn't he? Because he's got this sort of cross-hatching style in From Hell, and he says it was all right on the sort of first issue, and then I thought, oh, fuck me, why did I do this? And he had to like do, 350 pages of a comic that way, you know?
Oh, God. Yeah. You don't realise that mistake till you're making it. Unfortunately. Unless you got a bit of experience under your belt, and you kind of think, well, hold on, maybe I shouldn't have like all these characters with loads and loads of detailed costumes.
Yeah. What are the learnings you found? Like, as you say, like Bullet is a longer form story. Is it going to be how many issues is Bullet going to be?
We've got ideas for at least a dozen more after these initial ones. We could go on forever, honestly, but it's just a matter of financial success. I will make it as long as I can get close to breaking even, because I don't mind putting into it just to have it exist. But yeah, it's expensive, and I know even my collaborators, I pay them indie rates. I wish I could pay them 10 times what I do. They deserve way more, but even at that, it adds up. So I'm hoping that the Kickstarter, which is live, that's one of the reasons you guys are chatting with me, excuse me, is if that's successful, it just means I can do more and more. We've got plenty of material to explore, so as long as I can keep putting them out, there's a lot of stories to tell.
That's good, because Bullet, the first Bullet, is kind of like a relatively self-contained story. So when I heard he was doing a second, I was like, wow, okay. Without spoilers, I was like, how are you going to carry on this? And then you kind of spin it off in Bullet Adventures, and in keeping with the tone of the series, and you're off again. Yeah,
it doesn't negate anything we did in the one shot, which was very much as one and done. You can appreciate that on its own, and it doesn't need to go beyond that.
Yeah.
But I just loved the concepts, I loved the characters, and I had these ideas to spin it back into the present day, and it all works out.
So what is Bullet?
It's a superhero love story. The original one was actually half romance, but it's also just my love for superheroes. That's all I can say. It's the speedster set in the Silver Age. Old guy Dale DeSouza looking back on when he first got powers in the 60s. Developing that, he forms a relationship with one of the research assistants who's exploring his abilities. He becomes a hero and falls in love. And then, of course, Bullet Adventures is the modern day take. We bring him back and all that.
Being a speedster is probably one of the, I don't know, was it the more undervalued superhero powers? It's ridiculously powerful.
Yeah, it's ridiculously powerful. It's one of the go-tos, isn't it? If you had like the 4 or 5 like staple, if you're going to do the average superhero team, if you're going to choose, you'd have the super strong guy, you'd have the super fast person, you'd have all of that, and there's always a speedster. Well, hence the reason they call him a speedster. But like you say, Dan, could be potentially very powerful, and it throws up a million different ways of how you could treat it. How have you chosen to look at it, Randy?
See, the interesting thing about that, we reached a point in issue 3 of Bullet Adventures where the scenario, knowing that he can go that fast, really there's nothing that could stop him. So you kind of have to put that aside a little bit. Like, if somebody has a time to react with the word balloon, or, say stop, then he would have already done whatever he needed to do because he's just that fast.
That's a great way to look at it. I've never thought about it like that. Yeah.
But it ruins the whole idea. Like, okay, well, who can beat him then? Like, sheer strength, okay, that's going to be a factor. But, fighting regular-ish supervillains, or villains, I guess, not that super, there's no chance that they would have against him. So we kind of had to dial that back and just pretend that he's not going to be able to do anything within a blink of an eye, and still have to act at some reasonable speed.
That was one of the things that in that CW Flash show, I think I watched it for 1 or 2 seasons, and it was always he'd come up against a bad guy and they'd beat him because he wasn't using his speed. And then the plan they come up with, you got to run faster, and then that would beat him. And it's like, okay. And every week it'd be that.
Kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I just got to run faster. Don't let him shoot the laser at you and stand stock still. You got to run faster. Okay.
That's what happened post-crisis, wasn't it? And in a sort of wider sense, heroes had almost become too powerful, didn't they? So, you know, Superman was moving the Earth off its axis, and you know, like the Flash was traveling forward and backwards in time because he was so fast. And that's why when Byrne came in with Superman, they made him less strong. Yeah. And when Baron did Wally West as the Flash, he couldn't, you know, he had to eat loads of pizzas in order to run across the country and stuff like that, you know. It was literally like that, which I think you kind of have to limit them.
Yeah.
Don't you? Otherwise, they're just like gods, aren't they? And they can do anything they like.
It becomes hard to, I'd say, as a writer, does that become hard to relate to your audience if you got Superman pushing the Earth off his axis and very hard to kind of come up with a foe for it that's a bit, godlike.
It's fun to watch, but then at the same time, what do you do the next issue?
Exactly.
Well, right, it's supposed to be scratching their heads. Yeah.
There's always, I mean, stories are very much about it's choice and consequence, isn't it? That's basically the go-to for most stories, I think, and what superheroes choose to do and the ramifications for it. That's basically Spider-Man's life in a nutshell, what he does and then what happens to the people around him. You know, what parts of that were most appealing to you in terms of, was it more the superhero side or the way the superhero side affected the secret identity and the real life bits?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, with the one shot, the whole idea came out of that choice he has to make. Well, I don't know. It's not that much of a spoiler that eventually his powers are killing him, so he has to stop. But what is going to bring him back? Like, I've got to protect people. My wife and unborn child, you know, I have to sacrifice myself in order to protect people, and that's the right choice to make. So, I mean, you struggle with that as a person, like what choices do you make in regular life? I'm not out there saving the world by any means, but, you know, little things, you still have to make a choice, like being there for your kids or, you know, job stuff or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that does appeal to me for sure, but it's a balance. Like, I just love the spectacle of superhero stuff, so.
It all comes down to responsibilities, doesn't it? At the end of the day,
It's interesting. When I got Bullet, about a week or two before, I'd got a comic from a British creator, Rich Carrington, drawn by Lee Gasson, called Limits. And it's a very similar kind of idea, but the flip side of the coin of it. So where kind of Bullet's quite sort of upbeat and heroic, the character in Limits, faced with a similar situation, is kind of like a bit more self-serving and... No, I've got to keep all this for me, because if I use up what I've got left, I'm gonna die, and you guys can suffer because I'm putting myself first. Which was really interesting to see two comics with a similar take on a tale.
It's the exploration of the hero, isn't it?
Yes,
what it means to be a hero, and you know that whole.
Well, it's the Uncle Ben moment, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know. Could he save Uncle Ben or could he not have, you know?
Yeah.
Also, as a real person, like, you think, as much as you think in this moment, I'd do that. Would you really?
Yeah.
You know?
Mind you, invisibility, I'd be straight in the girls' showers. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, God. That's why you've never been hired for a superhero team, Tony.
It is that thing of, like, you like to think, as you mentioned, I would stand up if I saw some bloke harassing someone on the train. But I've been there and said nothing, and then there's been times when I have said something, and it's just it's just what you're like in that moment, I guess. But the exploration of that is fascinating, and like you said, it's what superheroes are about for me.
Yeah, superheroes.
It's the extrapolation of what it's like to be a human, isn't it? It's always it's got to be that, and that's where Stan and Jack and Steve all looked at it that way, didn't they?
Yeah,
which I think
just
was why Marvel.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and also make it fun. You know, because I mean, how many people's like moral compasses, you know, when they were kids?
What's that again?
Moral compass. Compass.
I looked that up on Wikipedia.
Right, their morality comes from like comic books. So the pages that they read, and like It's people doing good things for good reasons, which is like, I think why like your books are quite a refreshing change, because probably over the past 2 decades we've had a lot of superheroes have everything's dark and oh god, a superhero will do this, and then they'll be on social media, or they've got some drink and drug problem, and everything's awful and bad. And I think
it's not the boys, is it? Yeah.
No, it's nice to have that. I mean, I love stories like that. There's a time.
I've always wanted to crawl up a man's knob.
Yeah. One day, Tony, you got to believe in yourself.
So there's got to be a bit of balance.
Yes.
And
yeah,
when it's all that, it's just too much.
Yeah, it is too much. So we need stories of hope and like decent superheroes. But I mean,
I would say I got a lot of my morality from fucking Immoral Compass and reading comics.
Yeah,
I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I mean, that was my role model, is seeing these guys doing the right thing. I can't say that I have lived my life to that extreme, like being so helpful to the world. I'm not, honestly, but I lean that way, and I try my best.
What were you doing, Dan? Reading a lot of Robert Crumb books? Or?
Fuck you.
Although I didn't think we'd get quite deep on this, but why not? Let's go there. We're not all just smut jokes and comics on this. But in terms of, do you think there's a responsibility when that a creator has when creating comics? Not that they should completely adhere to the content.
It depends where they're making comics and who they're going to. I think,
and what it's
I think
for.
certainly sometimes, it's just a medium after all, isn't it? I think. Yeah.
I
think if you're doing comics that are going to schools, then you got to think about it. Sorry to interrupt, Randy. Go on, mate.
No, that's okay. I can't recall what it was. There was something that was very much visually. Oh no, I think it was a Harley Quinn adaptation of the cartoon. There's a comic coming out, and it was quite vulgar, I guess. I've never watched the cartoon. No. I'm just really worried for kids who go into a comic shop and they would buy that, and it was just totally not the audience, because it's presented in a way it's more for kids with the cartoony style and everything.
Yeah.
And it is a concern. I mean, kids will get exposed to things eventually. It's not the biggest deal, but to see something that's very much presented as, hey, kids, comics, and it's absolutely not. Yeah. Whereas if you got Derek Roberts drawing it gritty, the boys, like you say, like it's not aimed at kids. There's no mistaking that for a children's book. So I think there's room for both, and just kind of when they cross over, there
needs to be a delineation.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, if you got the in from the cartoon and you think, oh, we're going to see the next adventures, and you pick up the comic book and it's in a similar style, but completely the tone has completely shifted.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, like, the cartoon, this week I saw that the first episode was on just on YouTube of that HBO cartoon. I watched it and I loved it. It's fucking awesome. But the problem with that is it has that classic, that Bruce Timm sort of style. I mean, it's obviously different to that. So the comic follows that. But because it follows that in the way it looks, that look has definite more of an all ages connotation to it. That animated style. But like totally, if you say like Derek Robson's drawing it, immediately this is a grown up book. Do you know what I mean? If you've got a Glenn Fabry cover on it, you're like, whoa, that's probably not for my kids. And that's where it blurs the lines, doesn't it? Especially in this modern world of adult animation that we live in. There's a real sort of blurring of lines happening through different genres, and it bleeds through to comic books.
So, Randy, you did make a point of you said in the start of one of the comments in the introduction, you said about how you endeavoured to sort of encourage charitable donations via the medium of comics, and say make comics and make a difference. Is that kind of like the heart of Bullet, if you know what I mean? You're carrying it on there. So how do you do that, and why?
Well, it started out when I was doing these short stories for Death in Comics, what eventually became Death in Comics. I had a Facebook page, and I was just putting them up there, these short stories, and I'd tie in a relevant or somewhat related charity, realizing that I was probably not going to make any money off of putting these things out. I thought, well, maybe instead of giving me $2, you can throw some cash towards a charity. And I have no idea if anybody ever donated anywhere, but that was where Altruist came from. Is like, if I can do something to drum up some good, then that was the angle I was going for. Again, I don't know that it was successful in any way. So I didn't continue on beyond that. But I mean, I'm doing things like tree planting for issues sold. If I'm going to cut trees down to make books, then maybe I can give back, or little things
give
like
back
that.
in some way.
Yeah. So, I mean, generally, just making comics and making people happy and stuff is hopefully good enough to make the world a little bit better.
Yes.
I don't know.
I'm all for that, man. Like getting comics in people's hands, and yeah,
we just want to make the world a better place
for the medium of comics.
The medium of comics. Yeah.
I mean, there's very few comics we do at the moment, guys, that don't have some kind of donation scheme going. Really, is there?
Yeah.
I think it's important. Time to put some time in the trenches and do a bit of charity work and put some back if you're able. Because obviously there's loads of people out there that could do with a hand up, and I think it's incumbent on people who are a bit better off to do so. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
A rising tide raises all ships.
Oh, right, here we go. Dan's warmed up. Let's go. Come on, Dan.
The other aspect to that is helping out creators, and there's so many great communities in comics that I hope I know a bit more than I did years ago, and if I can give that information to new people coming into the industry and stuff, like I try to help out for sure.
It's tough out there. I think for creators of all kinds, and we're always talking about like the value of your work, and there are so many God knows how many wonderful creators that we haven't discovered because they were kind of priced out of it, or maybe there are the people that, as Tony mentioned earlier, are overpricing things. What happens when a creator, there are probably fantastic creators who aren't charging that much, who aren't getting seen because these other people are sort of pricing them out, and they're not being seen, and eventually those people are like, I just can't afford to do this anymore.
Well, one thing is quite insidious, and I've mentioned it sometimes. I've been in a group where people have asked, and it's like, right, someone coming to say I'm pitching a comic. It's like a 10-issue arc. I've never read comics before. I've never written one. Blah, blah, blah. So I'm looking for artists, and all these people say, yeah, I'd help out. I feel like saying to those people, look, you might be involved in this. Pull your heart into this comic, and it goes absolutely nowhere. And then you think, fuck this, I'm not doing comics anymore. And that incident is burnt out a potential, like an amazing creator of tomorrow. Do you know what I mean?
But that comes from something you say a lot, Dan, is comics seems to be the only thing that people think they can do without having any knowledge of it or background in it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, people just sort of, especially writing, I think they sort of turn up and think they'll just be a comic writing because they've heard it's cool.
And it's not that, and fighting. Everyone thinks they can do it.
I know I can't fight.
Yeah. Most people think, I could throw a punch. I could do all right. And then you ever punch? No. Well, why do you think you're good at it then?
Yeah, that's a good point, man, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I guess, the same, like you said, comics. Oh, yeah, I could do a comic. People do say that about film as well, though. I say, I can't see why it's a problem just to make a film. Why can't I just make a good film? And it's like, well, I'm sure
people tend to study film a bit more, don't they? I think it's
Yes.
sort of a thing to be a film student, isn't it? Where it's not really for comics, is it?
It's the way in this day and age we live in, where we're like mobile phones are like bloody movie cameras now.
Yeah.
Or you can make a webcomic and put it online quite easy. You could draw it on a tablet, etc., etc. Anyone can make the media that they want, but not everyone can make the media that they should put out. Do you know what I mean? There's a very...
Or should.
Or should. Yeah.
Or should, yes.
Yeah.
It's like that porno we made. What?
Well, we don't talk about that, but please email us if you want a copy. I'll send you the PayPal. Oh, God, no.
I mean, comics is pretty cool, though, because anybody can, like you say. Like, my oldest, he's made several issues worth of these short stories. He did Chicken Strip and Hamburgers, like a silly comedy thing. But like the fact that he can, there's no.
Hang on. Yeah. The character's called Chicken Strip and Hamburger.
Yeah, I like that. Immediately.
That is brilliant.
Like animated food.
Amazing.
That's one of the things.
It's pretty funny.
Go on. One thing that frustrates me when they sort of say the bar to entry for comics is like, well, if you got a piece of paper and an A4 HB pencil, you can make a comic. It's not a problem.
And that's how I started. So I mean, it's just how committed you are to stick with it, and then eventually learn how to use publishing software and send it to a printer, of course.
Yeah, exactly. That's the part of it I don't understand. I was laughing. I was telling the boys the other day, Randy, I found my first ever comic script that I wrote when I was 12.
Yeah.
Right. and it's the most highfalutin pile of crap you've ever heard. I was clearly had just discovered Philip K. Dick at that point, and it was like this sort of super complicated Bible for a comic that I then never wrote.
I'm sure a lot of writers have done that. There's that bit of advice, isn't there? Don't try and make your magnum opus on the first thing you try and do.
I had a whole
That's why short stories are so nice, because you can get that little idea out without spending a year of your life, right, or more.
Oh, this is in the days of typewriters and stuff. It's covered in white out, and
bloody hell! 10 out of 10 for going as far as a typewriter.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry to interrupt.
No worries. So, how do you find kind of work? Is it working in a creative team? How does that kind of work out for you, Randy?
It's great. I mean, number one, everybody else is better than me at these jobs. So, I mean, I found as I got less and less involved in these stories I was making, the quality went up. So I keep doing that.
Are you a man who writes a contract and all that sort of thing? Are you quite tight around all those areas?
I didn't for the first few projects I did. But I definitely want everybody to profit if we profit. So it's clear that I'm holding the rights to these things, but everybody gets percentage of profits. Just have to get to that point where we're profiting. So I mean, there's contracts in place, but I'm not out there to screw creators or anything like that. Like, I really want everybody to benefit. But as far as like the work we do, like Jordan and I, we've gone back and forth and hundreds of emails on ideas that you start with this kernel of an idea, and then the other guy takes it to another level, and just back and forth like that has been the coolest thing ever. Maybe just for so many years I just worked on my own, and again, just a piece of paper and a pencil, compared to actually playing off each other and then working with artists who you have it in mind one way, you've envisioned this page, and then they do something different, and you're like, wow, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, you've got to be open that to them. I think that's part of the collaboration, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think when stuff comes back that's different, you think, oh, okay, no, I see what you're doing there. You can't say, no, go back and do it the way I told you. It's not that way, is it? Especially not in the press. Yeah.
Well, mainly, it wouldn't be something like, if I specified something in a script, then there's probably a reason why it was specified. Otherwise, it's pretty open to whatever you want to do. Like, but there's other times that, there might have been a change that needed to go back, or, I'm trying to think of examples.
I think as a writer, we do as a writer, and you be an artist as well. You do, when you write, you visualize something, don't you? And some things are stylistically there for the purposes of narrative, and they tend to be a bit more stronger. Not like 100%. This has to be for me, but it's like, this would be really cool if we could do it this way, because I'm thinking of it looking like this, and it leads into this. There's lots of that, and I think that's the only way you can write a comic is visually watching it in your head happen.
Right. I mean, I do thumbnails too when I script my own things, just to see, does this work in 5 panels? Can you even fit this much information on one page?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
But I mean, it's your responsibility as a writer also, if you had that in mind, specify it. Not like, oh, sorry, I know you drew this 3-page scene, but that actually should have had this in here. And it's got to come to this angle so we can see that thing in the background. Well,
things need to be up front to be sort of dealt with further on, and there's all this sort of thing that has to fit in. It's like a jigsaw almost, isn't it? Yeah, agree.
But another writer that I talked to one time, he said he basically asked for a change on every single page. It's like a control thing. Like, I don't know why you do that. I always apologize for something that I say, like, I'm sorry to ask you this. Oh, here's an example. Shirt colors in future issues of Bullet Adventures. I didn't want to have the same colored shirt in 2 different days, basically. Like, Dale's going to change his shirt. It's not going to be red both times, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Or there's actually a mistake that we made with a long sleeve shirt and a short sleeve shirt that was colored the same, and then realizing that wasn't the same shirt. So, okay, he had to have changed. So can you please change that to a different color?
Yeah. So it's a visual cue, isn't it? Yeah.
So there's reasons for it. I would never ask for something just to like exert my power on this. Like, here, make this change. Like, no, this is going to either be confusing, or like, if we can make it better, then if you don't mind changing that, like, I don't want to make you do more work for no reason.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I agree, man. I often have that discussion with things. And sometimes you're writing a script and you realize halfway through that, you should have included something early on. So you've got to go back and add it. And it's the same for an artist, isn't it? There's things that should have been that way.
Within reason, of course. I don't think anybody's going to complain about that. But if you're asking me to redraw 4 pages of the story because you failed to do something, then that's
I agree.
Gets me caught out.
But the color of the shirt thing is probably, let's face it, just in the mind of the writer, isn't it? Probably. Is anyone going to write in about that one, do you think? But it's nice to get it right, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a relatively minimal fix. Like, if you're coloring digitally, it's...
Yeah. So we didn't go back and change the shirt sleeve length because that would have been like a big change. Yeah. But I asked Fran to change the color of it, which I don't know coloring. That's the one aspect I've never really touched. But I'd imagine you could kind of select and then just change the color of it.
Yeah, literally just like a hue and saturation thing. And
it's all AI now anyway, Randy. It's fine.
Well, I've never met her in real life, so she could just be a computer. Right?
Yeah, that's true. We talk a lot about robot women on the show.
Yes,
so that's a possibility.
Well, I think we'll mention this at some point of the show. I think we're going to have to revisit the AI thing because I thought this is going to be a flash in the pan, and it's not a flash in the pan.
It's not, is it?
It's not a flash in the pan.
It's turned around quick, isn't it? Isn't it happening quick?
I was reading articles about people they're putting out their first AI comic, and it's like, how does that work? Well, I think it's just an image of non-sequential images with the only thing that holds them together is the text.
Okay.
I don't want to be completely disparaging because I've not read them, but
I downloaded one. It seemed actually pretty good when I just flipped through it. Like, it was nicely drawn. It didn't have those weird faces that you see a lot of AI stuff. And I didn't actually read it. I just kind of scrolled through a little. It seemed like a pretty good use of the technology.
Okay.
I don't think that it's a substitution for real artists.
No.
I don't know
because it is essentially using already existing images, isn't it?
I guess
in a very sort of complicated mixture, but these images have got to exist to start with for them to be used.
Right.
Yeah.
There was some site where you could type in a creator's name and you could strike them using your imagery. Like you could look up a popular artist and say, this people have drawn from that X amount of times, and I've seen people when they type in their prompts that they've referenced an artist style they want it to look like.
Right.
Okay.
It puts their kind of finish on it, right?
Yeah. So like they might have a soft focus look, and it's that artist's kind of signature, as it were, for his work. And
the legal ramifications of this are huge. I don't think they've figured it all out yet, have they?
No. I don't know how it's gonna. That's why it's kind of an ongoing thing. I'm really not sure where it's going to go.
But Dan, we've been talking for ages about sex robots. Why isn't that the first thing that happens?
Well, the porn industry do lead the way in a lot of technological.
Life's just not fair. Life's just not fair.
Yeah. Don't ruin comics. Just make sex robots. That'd been fine. That'd be the future I want.
I don't know. Is that something you trust?
Yeah, true.
There's a lot of bad outcomes there.
Never stick your cock in crazy, Randy. It's something that Dan often tells me.
Or a USB port. How did we get to this?
You always get it upside down to start with the USB. I suppose
exactly. But that was the right way after all.
Yeah. That's what she said.
I still think one of the
sexist would say
the biggest villains of our age that USB was initially going to be you could plug it in either side and it wouldn't matter, and someone was like, no, make it just one side. I always wanted to track that person down, like
just to irritate Tony Esmond in the future. Yeah.
All of humanity, we come together and say, right, this person has done so much wrong in the world.
I wouldn't go back and kill Hitler as a baby. It'd be that person. That's what I'd do.
Oh my god! How did we get to this?
I don't know. Sorry, Randy.
Oh dear. But to get us back on the track, obviously, how are you finding like crowdfunding as a route for like?
Are you just on Kickstarter, or are you doing multi-platforms, dude?
Only Kickstarter.
Right.
I think this is my 5th one.
Well, okay, cool.
Something like that. They've all succeeded. I set my funding goals pretty low, to be honest. Like, I just want to get it out there. I prepay for everything, so it's pretty much covering print costs. All my collaborators have been paid. They'll get more if we can make this thing big. But yeah, it's weird. This current one, it seems a lot slower than previous ones. And I don't know if that's a sign of where Kickstarter's going, or
bit of a financial downturn at the moment or something like that, maybe as well.
It could be a bit of everything. Perfect storm of screwing me on this project, but I think that we'll still hit this goal. I'm not concerned about that, but that's my public goal. But I definitely have a personal goal that's a lot higher, and we're just not really on track for that, which is a bit discouraging because I was hoping that this would do so well that I can just get started on issue 5.
Yeah.
I've committed to the 4. They're ready to go, or they will be. They're all budgeted.
Well, that's the old one of the old Kickstarter gambles, isn't it? You set the total low because you think people are more likely to back it if they realise it's past its goal and is a go, a goer of a project, and therefore you. Or
the other side, if we can get a higher target, will the community rally behind me and actually push to make it?
Yeah, exactly.
But then you may not, and you lose everything. So always go low.
Yeah, agreement. Yeah, I'll get you. Yeah, there's both sides to that coin, aren't there? Definitely. Yeah.
Have
you explored doing some? Yeah, it is. It's a good little shop front. We often discuss it as well.
Yeah.
Like
have you system?
Yeah. Have you thought about any of these sort of new and upcoming ones? There's a couple of new ones coming out, or even
crowdfunder, Zoop, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I know people have done both. It's very difficult because Kickstarter is so established.
Yeah.
And for previous campaigns, I've had a large portion of people discover the project through Kickstarter. Like, you see your percentages, it's 30% came from Twitter and 10% from Facebook or whatever. But I was surprised at just how many people came across it through that platform. Yeah. And that's not something I'm ready to give up. I know Kickstarter last year, there was some backlash on what they were looking towards, crypto technology or whatever. I don't know. I think basically you're screwed anywhere you look at that. If you're using PayPal or credit cards or whatever, they probably all use the same stuff too. So you can't say, I'm not using this crypto stuff and move on to some place that's doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at it. What can?
Oh, totally. Yeah, you're preaching.
No, you're speaking. Yeah, definitely. I agree. And there's nothing in your wallet that doesn't use crypto, is there? Let's face it. Somewhere or other. Yeah.
Yeah, the banks are all up to shady stuff anyway. Like,
right.
Yeah. But over the course of those campaigns, you've sort of you figured out a rhythm of stretch goals and things like that. It's just
I never look too far at stretch goals. Yeah. Maybe I'm just not that confident that I'd have some people have when we reach 10,000 and 15,000, all these really large things. Like, okay, look, we'll fund this and I'll give you the product and then maybe have something in mind. I do have plans if this one is reaching its goal early enough to give away issue 2 PDF along with the rewards that you got for number 1, just to kind of build some buzz on that and get that into people's hands and hopefully push it to a much higher level. But otherwise, like having a glossier cover or anything.
Yeah. Do people really want bookmarks that badly?
I can't imagine that.
Yeah. Saying a man who's got a little pile of bookmarks in front of him from Kickstarters, he's packed. And postcards, But I'm not desperate for all that little.
That said, I was looking for a bookmark the other day and I couldn't find one, and I was sweating.
I think if anything, if it goes big, then my collaborators will benefit from that. I don't know. Maybe people appreciate that. Bookmarks aren't even that cheap. Unless you're doing it in thousands and thousands of copies, like per unit cost is not cheap.
No.
So wouldn't you rather give those few extra $100 towards the people who are making
it?
Yeah.
And you don't want to make a rod for your own back by having, we'll do a sketch for every person who backs it beyond, oh my God. Yeah.
I always think it's worth throwing in a tier for a kind of ridiculously high price that there may be only one of. But if a super fan backs it, that's great. Yeah. If they don't, there's no loss.
The issue you have with that, I think, you just want to see the world burn down. But
wants to go around someone's house.
The issue you have with that is sometimes you get these people who pledge on these big ticket items.
Yes.
And then it is funded, and then they decline. They disappear, and you don't get that money, and you've lost that big ticket.
But you
money.
could say for $500, we'll draw an extra page in a comic where you get to star in it, and then if the money doesn't come through, that page doesn't get drawn. Do you know what I mean? Something like that. You don't give them what they want before they paid the money.
But I think the concern is that if that was the $500 that puts you over, then it drops you down. Which, from what I understand, you can't back out of your pledge the last 24 hours or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
really, I didn't
But
know
still, that would be
Okay.
heart, you know.
Yeah.
I
hard to
think
take,
I know.
Well, I think you can change your pledge, can't you? Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, people have had problems with cards and
There was
stuff. Cards being declined and like
Yeah.
payments not going
There
through.
was a
and stuff. I
spat
don't
of
know.
people actually doing that maliciously, and I think they took steps to
Oh right.
stop that.
Yeah, we
As
had a
in,
bit of
like,
that on one of ours. Yeah.
They boost you over and then cancel the pledge, and it kind of leaves you kind of full at the fucking last post, as it were.
Yeah, well, I'm one to talk about. We got banned off Kickstarter. So,
Yeah, rightly so.
yeah,
One day you'll be banned from the internet.
that's true.
Fuck me, you have to ghost on to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you seen what's out there?
But I mean, Bullet Adventures. I mean, you're absolutely right, Randy. You're not asking for the world as well. So, like, seriously, this is good time comics, folks.
Yeah, making fun comics, man. That's what you want to do. Yeah, that's what we want to do.
Yeah, I can't recommend enough to get in on this because I've absolute joy.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. But I spent the afternoon reading them, and they're great, man. Really enjoyed them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
I figure there's a wide range of people who should be able to enjoy it. You know, us older guys, and then just kids and everything in between.
There's a little taste
it's
of
good.
nostalgia about them as
Yes.
well, which is nice, isn't it? I think that's a good thing.
yeah.
And timelessness, because it doesn't have to be people who, I read these Silver Age comics myself. It's just there's a reason why it worked back then, and I think the same reason holds true with current kids.
Totally agree.
And
without doubt.
it's the quality of the core story, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
It has to go beyond a trope or beyond, you know, this person, their parents were murdered and now they're a vigilante. What comes after that? What else have you got? You know, and a lot of stories sort of fall on that. If you don't have a real story and characters and people and stakes in it, then you lose them. And you know, your work's got it in spades, dude. It's, you know, it's really good. I mean, I think there's a lot of our listeners as well who are just hankering for some fun comics.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's that whole theory, isn't there, that comics do well in times of financial crisis and, you know, stuff like that. And I think the world's facing a few dark moments at the moment, isn't it? And we all need a bit of escapism, don't we? You know, something that sort of we can read and, you know, sucks us in and we enjoy and, you know, turns the world off for a bit, I think. And that's what these are.
Yeah. And I mean, you've written enough of clearly, you've got plenty of more stories left to tell.
Yeah.
So
hopefully we can get there.
Yeah. But just so you know, Randy, the sex robot thing is copyrighted by me and Dan. Just in case.
I'll talk to you about it off air, Randy. We'll sort it out. But saying that, you know, you've got to support Positive Comics because Randy's got some dark stories in him as well. We've read some of his other short stories, and the man's got darkness in his soul like all of us.
Yeah.
So where can we find you on social media? Where can they pick up the comics, Randy?
Well, you can follow at Altruist Comics on most social media, Facebook page and Instagram, Twitter. I've got a website, altruistcomics.com, with a shop there, which currently there's something wrong with the shipping calculator, so I'm trying to figure that out. But eventually we can get those out to people, and everything's available as an add-on through the current Kickstarter. Yeah. So if you want to pick up some of the older books like Prime Pays or Death in Comics, Sensational Swan, all that stuff, that's all available.
And you've got some upcoming conventions in Canada, haven't you?
I just applied for Fan Expo Vancouver. That's the biggest local one. I do some small shows. There's Vancouver Comic Con. They usually have like one fairly known bigger creator and then some local people. There was one time just this past year that I was the biggest name there, and I don't think they did so well. They put me as the headliner and nobody showed up. So
one day people will be looking back on that, Randy, thinking, "You remember when we had Randy in?"
Yeah. He only wanted blue M&Ms. Do you remember that? Do you remember his demands? He was an absolute diva.
Yeah. Blue M&Ms in the rider.
He refuses to walk upstairs.
Wanted a plate for his sandwich.
Call back.
Yes, call back.
Well, that'd be good. You know, Fan Expo. I mean,
I've heard of that. I'd like to go to that. Actually.
Yeah, that's pretty big now.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a different crowd. It's not just a comic scene. It's very much like anime voice actors and Walking Dead actors and stuff too. A lot of cosplay.
Yeah.
So I think a smaller percentage of attendees who actually spend money on comic books, but it's fun.
Yeah. Well, if you're there,
That's
hopefully Randy,
conventions now, isn't it?
hopefully Randy will be there.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and you should go follow him and Altruist Comics and just generally back Bullet because we love it. And thank you very much for joining us this week, Randy. It's been a lot of fun.
That was a good one.
Yeah, cheers.
Thanks for having me. Great chat, guys.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another great
He's a
creator.
good lad, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Nice dude.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
Super
I
nice.
like people who've never met us before, but get our humour. That's what I like.
Or, AKA, put up with us for an hour.
Yeah, that's it.
Randy did both.
Yes. And he is, of course. I mean, we do mean it, folks. Go and check out Bullet because we had a chance to read his comics and they're great stuff.
Good fun afternoon of reading them I had today. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I know a lot of our listeners are like superheroic type fans as well. So yeah, we need more really
Can't
good,
go wrong with Bullet.
really good quality indie superheroics. I think.
I wonder if he's aware that there was a British weekly called Bullet as well.
Maybe not.
Cool.
The British Weeklies pretty much used every kind of masculine word for their comics, didn't they? It was like warrior, action,
Hotspur,
punch, bastard. I don't know. They were just called everything.
Yeah.
Anal.
Bastard's quite a good one, Vince. I like that.
Yeah.
I think there's a Japanese anime that's got that though.
Bastard Weekly.
Bastards Weekly.
Oh, we should do a line of fake
Anal
cover.
Nightly.
We should do Anal Nightly.
Keira Knightley's sister.
Oh dear. No, perhaps we should do maybe do some fake covers for Bastard Weekly.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be nice.
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Like we did for those posters for Tony Osmond, you guys did.
Yeah.
That was fun,
brilliant.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Nice fun exercise, wasn't it? Yeah.
No, but thank you again to Randy for joining us. He is obviously, he's a writer and artist. He's got all the tools.
That's where we're going. That's where we're going with this.
And we've got another fun little game for me and Dan to basically go, what? Oh, God, I know this one.
After my terrible performance at working out Extreme Comics characters.
Oh, mate, the cards are stacked against you there, though.
And, well, they're saying that my shameful performance and the fact that I seem to do well, I don't know what that says about me. We're delving back into the... we're looking
early
in the
2000s.
Yeah, the early 2000s when print magazines were a thing, and that Wizard magazine was certainly quite a major thing.
Well, it was still going at this point. It's still popular.
Yeah. And you should definitely, if you haven't checked it out, folks, there's the Toy Galaxies, the Rise and Fall of Wizard magazine on YouTube.
Yeah, I must watch this.
That's
it's really good.
Really good.
Really well researched and presented. It's a joy to watch. Yeah.
All of their stuff is really. I love Toy Galaxies. So there's a recommendation. There's an early recommendation for you. But they used to do top tens, didn't they, Tony? So what was the little thing? Yeah.
So I've got issue 205 of Wizard, which is from November 2008.
2008. Oh God.
So it's 2008. That's you have to set your mind. I'll give you a couple of minutes to set your mind what's happening in comics around that time. Just work it out in your head. Now, at the same time, this is the same time Zack and Miri was about to come out. Do you remember that movie?
Okay.
Right. Okay.
In the interview with Kevin Smith, I'd like to say that Kevin Smith refers to Zack Snyder as a genius. It's quite an interesting interview.
Okay.
He'd just seen the Watchmen movie. So think about what was going on around that time. So it was a period that was kind of rise of the writers, wasn't it?
Yeah. I certainly wasn't reading Wizard. That's what I can tell you.
Oh, I was definitely reading Wizard then. Definitely.
Right.
You were still reading Wizard then?
Yeah, man. I've got it pretty late in the day, almost to the point where we're shut up shop.
Okay. So what I've got here is top 10 writers and top 10 artists. So let's start with the writers. So you've got 10 who they call, it's the Clash of the Titans, they say, the hot 10 writers at the time. Now, let's go back and forwards. And you can who should we start with?
Are we doing? There's the list of 10. It's almost like we just got to pick one and see if it's on the list.
Yeah, see if he's on there, and I'll tell you where he sits, where he ranks.
Okay, I'm going to write out these lists. This is like Family Fortunes. It's really great.
Yeah. It's on the board.
It's unsurprisingly, it's all men. Right. Okay. So let's do writers first. So let's go Vince first. Name one.
Mark Millar.
Yes.
Nice.
Good shout. Number 6.
Oh, I thought it'd be higher.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Garth Ennis.
No.
Really? Fucking hell.
Oh, this is why it went under, Dan.
I thought the 90s would have been way up there for him.
It's not the 90s, mate.
Oh, sorry, the 2000s, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Vince again.
Brian Michael Bendis.
Number 1.
Fucking
Number
nice
one.
Vince.
What was he doing around that time? I mean, Ultimate
Secret
Spider-Man.
Invasion, Ultimate Origins, Mighty Avengers, New Avengers.
Oh, he was still Marvel at that time, wasn't he? Of course, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Dan?
I'll go Peter David.
No.
Dan. Me. I'm striking out here.
Yeah. Vince?
Oh God. Oh God. You know when all the writers come, they're just going into your head and going out another. Oh God. Jason Aaron.
I would say no.
Oh.
I would say there's a mix of the predictable and the surprises in this list. I'd say.
Okay.
So let's have. You get one. You get 2 more. Dan and Vince will get 1 more. So Dan, you're next.
Frank Miller.
No.
I didn't think he's fucking put anything out of note at that point.
Okay. Vince, last one.
Okay. DC around that time.
I always said Peter David, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God. 2008.
I would say they're mostly Marvel.
All right.
Mostly Marvel
I'm just going to take a punt. No, it can't be. No. Oh, fuck it. I'll just give it a shot. Kieran Gillen?
No. 1 more from you, Dan. Come on, boy. Come on, you can do it.
Man, fuck me. I'm completely blanking.
Come on.
2008. I'm trying to remember that, you see.
Joss Whedon.
Yay!
Yes.
Number 3.
Fucking got on the fucking board at last.
On the board last, yeah. So let me read them out. So number 1 was Bendis. Number 2 is Grant Morrison.
Oh.
So we just had Final Crisis, Batman, Final Crisis Submit. Joss Whedon, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, After the Fall. Jeff Johns, Final Crisis, Rage of the Red Lanterns, Legion of Three Worlds. Jeff Loeb, which is a bit of a bit. I'm not sure about that one. Captain America White, Hulk, Ultimate Hulk Annual.
I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something maybe controversial to some people.
Go on.
I've never been fussed about Jeff Loeb's writing.
Who did Jeff Loeb run a comic company with?
Didn't he do Sigil and all those ones?
So comic company.
I can't remember the name of the fucking title.
Mark Waid?
Under.
Extreme. He ran Extreme with Rob Liefeld.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Number 6. Lame to fame.
Yeah. Number 6 was Mark Miller. Number 7, so he had Wolverine, Fantastic Four, Marvel 1985, Kick-Ass. Ed Brubaker at number 7, Captain America, Criminal, Daredevil. Warren Ellis at number 8, Astonishing X-Men, Anna Mercury, Dr. Sleepless. 9, Matt Fraction, he was doing Invincible Iron Man, Uncanny X-Men, and Punisher War Journal at the time.
Of course.
And then the 10th was, I think, a surprise, Greg Pak, who was doing Scar, Son of Hulk, and the Incredible Hercules.
He had a big run on Hulk, though, didn't he?
Greg Pak? He had Planet Hulk, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Warren Ellis, something happened to him recently.
I don't know where Joss Whedon's gone these days. We are obviously being satirical.
Yeah.
All the opinions expressed.
Yes.
Humorous purposes.
Don't take anything we say as fact because it's all bollocks, basically.
Yeah. Others' misery is our humour.
Others' misery.
I've never read that one, boy. That's good.
Yeah.
Right, let's do artists now. So allow me to say that 2 people in this list have died recently. There's a little clue for you. We haven't interviewed any of them.
That leaves the field wide open, though.
I've met one of them recently. Right. There you go. 2 little clues for you there.
Dan,
Dan's going to start this one.
I'm going to go for I think it's going to be an easy one. Jim Lee.
No.
Oh, fucking hell.
John Romita Jr.
Yes, he's the one I met. So that's the clue. He's at number 10.
Okay. Fuck me.
Was he only doing Kick-Ass around that time?
Amazing Spider-Man and Kick-Ass, yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Greg Rucka.
Greg Rucka's not an artist.
Sorry.
Dan's having a bad day.
Come on, Dan. Come on. I believe in you.
What's Dan Jurgens?
Dan Jurgens. No, sorry.
Eric Larson.
No. Come on, guys. Concentrate on what was happening at the time. We've just had talk about Final Crisis. We've had talk about Captain America. We've had talk about the X-Men, Secret Invasion. We've had all that talk. Now we're trying to work out who the hot artists are at the time.
Oh, fuck. What's the guy who did Secret Invasion, the art on it? Oh.
Come on, you know this one.
Oh, man, I've got...
You know this one, Dan. You know this one.
I'm trying to fucking pull the info from my head.
Dan, you know this one.
Greg, Lionel Yu.
Yay!
Fucking what? You what?
What are you talking about?
That is unbelievable.
What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. Okay, Vince, come on.
I did pick one, but I think that's too... I think it's too early.
Don't forget the clues I gave you. 2 of them are diaries, so you got that clue.
Trying to fucking...
One of them is a proper baller, all over Instagram, always with a chick on his arm. We know him.
Frank Cho.
Frank Cho, good.
Frank Cho.
Yeah, D-Man.
What number's Frank Cho?
5.
He was doing a bunch of Marvel stuff at that time as well, wasn't he? I think.
He was doing some Hulk at the time, and he did that Avengers series, didn't he? Was it My Avengers? I think. Can't remember now.
Yeah.
With Bendis.
Man, I'm fucking striking out here. I can't fucking think.
You jonesing?
I'll go Greg Capullo.
No.
Okay.
It's not a bad shout, that one. Yeah, New
Spawn
52 was around this time. Yeah. 2 years later, I think New 52 was. Is that right? And let's go have one more chance each. So come on, V.
Between the two.
One's a favourite of yours. One is an absolute favourite of yours.
Fucking got one.
One's an absolute favourite of mine. Oh, fuck. Alan Davis?
No.
Damn it! That was... right, I'll tell you what.
George Lopez.
No.
I just want to keep going. Hold on.
Go have one more. Come on in. There might be... I don't want to put a sort of hitch into what's happening, so go on.
Oh, Brian Hitch.
Yay!
Right, okay. Was Stuart Immonen on that list?
He's not. Do you know anyone who does art? Dan, anyone art?
Art Gilbert, whatever his name is. Can't remember his son. Is that how you say his surname?
It's Thibert, wasn't it?
Thibert.
Yeah.
No, not him.
No.
Garfunkel.
Arthur Adams.
Yay!
Arthur Adams is in there.
Man, he should be on the list all the time.
What was he doing around this time?
He was doing some Hulk, according to this, at the time.
Okay.
Shall I read you the list?
Yeah.
Number 1, Lionel Yu.
Yes.
Number 2, J.G. Jones, doing Final Crisis.
Okay.
Number 3, you'll kick yourselves, Ed McGuinness.
Oh, God, 4... that was one I was going to fucking say, because he's one of my favourites. Fuck.
Yeah. Number 4, Brian Hitch. Number 5, Frank Cho. Number 6, Art Adams. Number 7, Tim Sale. We lost him recently, didn't we?
Fuck.
Number 8, Gary Frank.
Yeah.
Who just did that cover for a comic I read this morning, Sergeant Rock versus the Evil Dead, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you think about that, T.
Drawn by, written by Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
A bit mad. Number 9, George Perez. And number 10, John Romita Jr. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
The hot list.
That's got school. You got taken to school there.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Because it was always sort of fairly one-sided about certain characters, wasn't it? Not Image Wizard. They sort of played their favourites, didn't they?
Oh yeah, totally. Like
it was definitely what they got access to was the best. If you know what I mean.
When I was reading it, sort of like late 90s, early 2000s kind of thing. It was it was always the same. When they were on that real Image is amazing, we love Spawn. That was just locked in there all the time.
Man, I think I was on that hype train because they put me on that hype train. You know what I mean? With Spawn, it's just like Image Spawn.
Yeah.
But, I always remember they did those photo comics, and there's one where like they went to the beach, and there was like a guy standing in his swimming trunks. He had like a hairy belly button, and one of the female staff was looking at it, and the thought balloon was, "I'll be seeing that in my nightmares."
I've told you about that seaweed thing I've done at the beach before, haven't I?
No, I think you might have, but please tell me again.
I went on holiday with a girlfriend at the time, and we were on the beach, and a lot of Italian men are quite hairy.
Okay.
In Italy. So I went and got a load of seaweed and stuffed it down my trunks, and it came out the bottom of my trunks, And I just used to walk about with this seaweed coming out the bottom of my trunks. It's quite cool, isn't it?
Why do they let you go anywhere? No, what? No, don't encourage him. It's just...
Why do they let you go anywhere?
What? Why? Why? Anyway, do we have any shout-outs this week, gents?
Yes.
We do.
So a couple of Kickstarters. Firstly, Pre-Mortis, the H-Files, the new horror comic from the Art 92 Art Collective, especially Helena. Which the R92 is Helena and Damien. It's on Kickstarter at the moment. I've backed it. It looks good. It's a good one. Another one of theirs. They're putting the books out at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Workhorses.
Do you remember that erotic comic I spoke about, Asteroid Belters? You mind?
Yes.
And I showed you. I got it super prompt. I've got to tell you, they know how to do it. It came through straight away. It's really good. And the sequel is now on Kickstarter. It's called, get this, Asteroid Belters Battle Beyond the Bras, and it's going to be great. And it's I think I get the impression it's more sort of comics this time round, but with all the sort of sauciness that came with the last one, which I remember showing it on the on the drink and draw.
How can you battle beyond a bra?
If it's got Sybil Danning, I don't care.
Put it to
I'll go say anything. Next one, a couple of sort of personal ones. Fur2, it's going to be on sale for probably about another day before we pause sales because I'm off to NYCC. So thanks to everyone who's grabbed a copy so far. If you hear this, you might get a chance to back it or go buy a copy. It's tributepress.co.uk, and we've got some stuff on there. So
I've got this tea, but I've not had a chance to read it yet.
That's right, baby cakes. On the subject of Tribute, we're very pleased to announce we've got a new writer coming on board. So the Tribute Press world is growing, and we've got a writer who uses the pen name Wendell Bullbag. He's come on board, and we'll have some new comics out in Nottingham from him. Fingers crossed. We're looking to have 2. They may not be on sale. They may have to be requested using a special code name at the table. But I'll let you know nearer the time for that.
That's the best kind.
Wendell Bullbag.
Bullbag.
And the final one is a big shout out to DUI too, which is still available. People sales have slowed down a bit, and I know there's some of you who haven't got a copy, so go and get a copy. It's duicomic.bigcartel.com, and it does go to the right place. And we're talking about earlier with Randy, weren't we, about charities and stuff. This goes to Cancer Research UK. Money from each purchase. If you buy a digital copy, the £3 you'll pay for that goes straight to them. Brilliant. So we'll send it straight, or Eamon will send it straight off. So get yourself a copy. I'll remind you, duicomic.bigcartel.com. It's well worth it. There you go.
Nice.
Miles.
Dan?
Right, I've got Nephilim versus Demons, Faith Healers graphic novel, dark fantasy horror graphic novel where half angel Nephilim work to protect their kind from demonic threats. From Hellbound Media. That does need a little bit of help. So if you're thinking about backing that, get in quick. They've done so many Kickstarter campaigns. You're going to get your book well worth putting some money into that. We've got Now That's What I Call Turning Tricks, issue 3, a comic about a perpetually thirsty waitress and her quest to get laid in a galaxy on the brink of war. What headline? That's a good one. So go check that out. That's smashed through its goal, and it's still got another 2 weeks left to run. And finally, the comic our guest is currently put on Kickstarter. This Bullet Adventures issue 1, a 24-page comic, time travel in the superheroics, the return of the Silver Age speedster that fans have been begging for, getting on the ground floor of this brand new continuing series. I would highly recommend doing so. It's a really fun comic. And that's it. And finally, I've managed to decide on the naming reconvention for Viper Soviet Strike. It's now going to be Crimson Dawn, Viper Crimson Dawn, which sort of, invokes the classic Patrick Swayze film Ghost. Red Dawn.
and the classic Dolph Lundgren film Dark Angel. Anyway, right. If you know the 2 films we're talking about, well done you. Anyway, I just got one shout out. 22nd of this month, October, is BAM. It's an comics, art and zine fair taking place in the Comedia in Bath from 3 till hang on, what's that? No, it's 11 till 3. God, bloody hell, that would have been crazy otherwise.
But that's a hell of a day.
That's a hell of a day. No, the Comedia in Bath. It's going to be group of fantastic different creators are going to be there, as well as me and Tony are going to be there.
Yeah.
If you want to find out more, it's free entry to come in, and it's just going to be a great sort of social scene, I think, as well. So you can, it's on Facebook at BAM Comic Zine Art Fair, Twitter BAM_fair, Instagram BAM_ Comic Zine Art Fair. Cool. When you're trying to say it over and over again, it's the right mouthful, isn't it? It's got a lovely, bright, colourful poster, which is one of the more recent art things I've done. And we'd like to see you there. Big eyeball. If in doubt, just draw something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we'd love to see you there. So okay, from all of that goodness to more other goodness, the recommendations. What have we got this week, Gats?
I've got 2 again.
You've always
got the one.
I know. Okay. So do you mind to start with one?
Yeah, go for
it.
Okay. One at the what? After the Robot Apocalypse, issue 1, published by 182 Comics, created by SP0, aka, as I understand it from the back matter, a man called Keith. It's edited by Carolyn Hopewell and Gemma and Nick Borey. Sarah pointed this out to me that it was on Kickstarter, and I've had real fun with it. It's been a really fun book to read. It reminded me that of something that came out maybe in the sort of early 80s indie comics explosions, something like that. Something that maybe someone like Mirage would have put out. Maybe it would have been a backup in something like Gizmo or something like that, you know? I would think if it was going to be released from a current company, it might be Alterna or Antarctic Press or something like that, put that out. Sort of indie, it's got a sort of underground but cool feel to it. It's the sole work of a man called SP0, who is also a street artist. In the back of the comic, you see some of the walls he's painted, and a lot of the street art that he was doing was an inspiration for the story beats that turn up in the series. Also, he talks about in the back matter, one of the origins for it was the song, Manic Street Preachers song, Motorcycle Emptiness. And that's how the story opens. It opens with a dude on a bike, old school sort of motorbike, with a samurai sword sticking out the back of his backpack on the bike. So already you're in a sort of cool area, aren't you? And the box tells you it's 57 years after the robot apocalypse. Chris Swift is this character, and he's wondering if he's now the only human left. But he bumps into a tiger, 2 female survivors, and a massive killer robot in that order. The middle section of the book is a really well-handled chase sequence and battle sequence where he goes across this, you know, in the future, cities are cities, but they're all overgrown, aren't they? Sort of nature's began to reclaim it. It's a bit like that. And that people die, people live, people get away, people don't get away, and it ends up with a bit of a right turn at the end of the story. There's nothing in here that isn't already an existing trope within Apocalypse books. You know, especially the ending. You're introduced to something you think, oh, I've maybe seen that before, but it's done in such a cool and fun way. It's completely it's completely excusable because it's got a real style and a flair to it. There's genuine energy to what he brings to it, and the characters. I don't know. It's hard to point. I'm not a knowledgeable person on street art in the slightest. I suppose the only exposure we've had to, or certainly I've had to it, is chatting to Sarah and her partner. You know.
Yeah.
But I'd expected it to be a bit more chaotic when she said it was a street art thing, but it's actually quite clean line. There's a real lovely. He knows how to draw stuff, and the characters really sit 3D like up off the page. Everyone is very distinctive. Not everyone's a person. I won't spoil anything, but you've got these killer robots, and you've also got something else that's going on in where he ends up later on. The evil robot overlords are very because. It's great, isn't it? We see so many from people who all they do is live in comics. We see so many things, familiar things repeated, don't we? I mean, how many times have we got to see, like you said earlier, someone's parents get killed, so they become a Dark Avenger, or the Dark Phoenix is played out again, or these sort of things. We see it over and over again. But because he comes from a different world, the design styles are different, and these robots, these attacker robots, are not like anything you see in comics at the moment. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, they're doing like the age of like Age of Apocalypse, but the Age of Sinister with the X-Men. And it's like, I know. You kind of done this before.
Yawn. Yeah. I know what you mean. But this is something fresh. It's very individual. There's you don't see any origins of everything, and I kind of like that. I'm tired of seeing the origin story of stuff. So there's been a robot apocalypse, but it's never explained. And why would it need to be? It's 57 years in the future. This doesn't fucking know what happened. Some great special effects he uses. So when you imagine a lot of street art, this is me speaking as a complete idiot. A lot of street art seems to be words. Is that right?
Like kind of like I don't know the way. I don't know the terminology, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a special effects, SFX kind of, word, boom or whatever it's going to be. And he makes big use of that. And I think that works really well in the way this action story runs. There's a couple of moments in it I felt like the words could have done with maybe a reread. There's certainly one repetition of something. And there's an overlapping box thing that goes on it. I'm not sure exactly works, but I see what he's going for, and I think let's try for stuff. I don't see why you shouldn't do. The copyright blurb made me laugh. It said published randomly when I get a chance to finish an issue, and it does certainly leave you with some more stuff to come. He also sticks in some fake adverts, which made me giggle. So it's broken up a little bit by these sort of posters, and also coming allegedly, if you believe this advert, I don't know whether you would, allegedly coming from 182 Comics is Fancy Rock. And it's a picture of a rock near a bridge, which made me laugh. So it's got a real sense of humor, and there's a couple. It's not the back matter isn't. Sometimes I think back matter's okay, and sometimes I think don't overdo it, mate. I don't want to see how this is particularly the cookies made sort of thing. But there's enough in here that you find it interesting, and you do see the origins of a lot of the designs, and the tiger appears in it and stuff like that. And I'm not a huge fan of street art, to be fair, but this is pretty fucking impressive what he's got here. And there's a sort of picture of him from a distance. Although I suspect that these shadowy characters who do street art, SP0 probably isn't someone who is immediately someone that we know. But yeah, it's very good. It's called After the Robot Apocalypse issue 1, and I got mine from Kickstarter. There you go. It's the first one.
Nice one.
Dan, what have you got?
My comic is from a chap called Oscar Celastini. He's on Twitter. I followed him for a little while now. I think he's either a French or Spanish creator. And he's put these comics out called The White Lion, and they've literally just been translated into English. And I paid.
Oh, these are good, man. Yeah,
$8, and I've got the first 10 issues. And I just took a look on his timeline, and like there's another 10 that he's got, but they just haven't been translated yet. So that fucking is brilliant. How to describe this? It's kind of like He-Man, but kind of with adult elements. It's not adult. It's a very kind of fun sword and sorcery. It does feel like they're like He-Man figures coming to life and having these wacky adventures on the comic. And there's the main character, I think is Sodor, is wronged, and he's like a man on a mission. He's on a man on a mission to kind of bring back his kingdom. He's the White Lion, and there was like several lions in the kingdom, all with a different color. And throughout the 10 issues, he goes about trying to get them all back from their various curses and imprisonment, and go up against one of their former number, who's the Red Lion, who's now turned evil and taken over the entire kingdom as his kind of like ruler. And it's this big, long quest-like story of him going off to do it. And like the Bullet Adventures, it's very wholesome in certain ways. Like the good guys are good guys and the bad guys are bad guys. And it's just really fun. I just fucking blazed.
Yeah, I read a couple, man. They're really good. Yeah,
really, really fun. They're a little bit fucking saucy at sometimes. Like it cuts to like characters being excuse me, tied up and they've got no clothes on, but there's like vines strategically covering the naughty bits, as it were. But generally, yeah, it's a really fun book. I'd highly recommend checking it out.
Cool.
So you'd have to go to his Twitter to get it. So that's Oscar Celastini. So at Oscar Celastini, Celestini. Go check it out, and you can buy all those comics for $8.
Nice. A quick one from me, just to reiterate. It's almost an echo of a recommendation that I had probably less than a month ago, actually. I had some days off, went to a bookstore and picked up Volume 1 of Rooster Fighter. And I cannot recommend Rooster Fighter enough to anyone.
Nice.
Anyone and everyone.
I've bought this for my son.
Needs to read
I did warn you.
Yeah. It's just amazing. I think also I had a chance to because when I raved about it last time, I just read basically a couple of issues of digital translation. This is the proper translation. Get the book. It's from Viz Media. It's not much at all. $9.99 in the UK. Find it in all good bookstores. They only have one copy in the Waterstones I was in.
I reckon this is going to be one of those mangas that sells out.
Yes,
I
think it is, and deservedly so, because, I mean, once you get past the fact that it's a cockerel fighting demons, like a human being, you know, that's just amazing. But when you actually read it, it just makes sense. It's glorious to look at. The action is some of the best fight scenes you'll see anywhere. There's crazy demonic designs, there's character moments, and each of the volumes sort of furthers the story a little bit, but can just be, you can just read a volume and then just put it down. You know, I mean, I whizzed through this whole book. It's a fairly quick read as well. I think this is when people say what's a good book to introduce people to this form of reading, you know,
it's a good one,
manga. I think this one is a good one, because not only is it's fun, it's quick to read, because I haven't read many books from the right to left. Do you know what I mean? That sort of format. I mean, and it's a good one because of the way this book is laid out. It's easy for your brain to sort of pick up on it, because some sort of manga can be amazing stories, but quite dense and like lots of dialogue or things going on, and you're not quite sure. This one's easy, so easy to follow. But he's doing lots of Shu Sakaratani. I've messed that up, but absolute genius creator. But having the book, one thing I did like is at the back of the book, the chapter titles in Rooster Fighter are derived from Japanese proverbs that reference birds.
Oh, right.
So there's 5 stories within the first volume. There's The Bird Who Fights Demons, Death from a Bird, The Homesick Bird, The Bird and the Sea Turtle, and A Bird Leaves the Nest. And it actually tells you what the actual proverb is for each of these. The Bird and the Sea Turtle, a proverb describing a cornered individual who has no chance of escape and must ask for help. The proverb invokes the image of a cornered bird jumping into the arms of a human being. I mentioned that one because The Bird and the Sea Turtle might be my favourite story in all of it. It is literally a Rooster Fighter meeting a sea turtle on a beach, and they have a fight like it's Street Fighter.
They're not meant to get on, are they?
They're not meant to get on, but then they kick each other's asses and eventually help out. You know, they come together. It's the Iron Man and Thor fight from the Avengers. It would have been different
if it had happened in the sea.
Yeah. But it sort of culminates in some amazing action, and one panel that I think I'd want on a T-shirt. And Tony, it's the panel of, because you've read all of this, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. The panel of the rooster riding on the turtle's back like a jet ski through the water. That would be an amazing print on a T-shirt. Actually, you could pick loads of different panels from this.
I wonder
book.
if there are any T-shirts in like Redbubble or something for them.
There should be, because this thing's going to be fucking huge.
Bootleg one. I know that's morally and ethically
how
wrong.
Dare you? But right now, just get your hands on that. Get your hands on the book, because I absolutely adore it. It's going to be one of my favourites. We've started sort of mumblings, talking about what will be some of our picks of the year when we get to that stage of the show. And don't be surprised if you hear me
almost
talk about...
almost time for that.
Don't be surprised if you hear me talk about Rooster Fighter again. It will happen, because I love this series. And I think by the end of the year, I think there might be another volume out.
Yeah, they're threatening, and this one was a bit delayed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They're threatening there's another one.
Yeah, I think there might be one end of October, maybe. Who knows? But definitely get on it. And that's my one. Tony.
Last one, Old Man Grey by Stephen Ingram, stepheningram.art. Recent guest of ours, buddy of the show. I'll read the blurb from the back. Taylor Kite is a 60s folk musician. On his way to a gig with his new duo, A Field of Kites, he crashes his car in the middle of nowhere whilst trying to avoid a badger. Needing help to recover his car, he accepts help from a strange local girl from the village over the hill who happens to be nearby. This name may not be the smartest of choices. It's not. It doesn't turn out well. I backed it on Kickstarter. To be fair, it did come out on the Patreon, but I thought this is going to come out in a physical copy on a double dip on it, so I did. It has that sort of quiet, pensive simplicity that Stephen does so well, but it's got that sort of bigger and this one has a creepier overtone to it, floating just above the story, always present, which is a good thing we've read a lot of folk horror recently. I certainly have, and that's a good thing. You got that sort of ever present feeling of dread, something strange is happening kind of thing going on there. It's black and white, it's eminently readable and very clear as usual with Stephen's stuff. Maybe it's because I know Steve and I know he's from north of the border, that I kind of visualize it being this countryside town in Scotland that's sort of remote. I think Scotland does that better than we do, doesn't it? It has these sort of remote villages. It's much bigger and there's much more countryside up there, seemingly, in my head. And then you add into the mix this sort of folk horror creeping thing that happens along with it. And it's only a short story. It's not a long read. It's sort of slightly smaller than American comic size, and I don't know how many pages it is, maybe sort of 30 odd pages, something like that. On the cover you get, I don't know if you've seen the cover to this, guys. Have you seen the cover to this? It's got
I think I have.
A badger looking at the reader, and then three sort of
of course,
villages.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
And their eyes, the way the badger has sort of black stripes over its eyes in its pelt. These three people have got that over their eyes, and it's something I've not seen before. I think that seems to be a cool design, but nothing I've seen like that before.
No, yeah.
It's hard to talk about because there's a twist in it. It's like a Tales of the Unexpected story, but maybe twisted into something that perhaps is done by someone like Ben Wheatley. It's got that feel to it. I'll give it high marks. If you go to Stephen Ingram Art on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, you can find him. StephenIngram.art is his website. There's also there's a bio of the band that features in the comic, A Field of Kites in the back, and it's written by a guy called Martin Moon, and it appeared in Mono Sounds magazine, December 1985. And I'll leave you to decide if that's genuine or not. But I know there is certainly one of the three of us who looked it up on Spotify to see if it was. That's how well it's done. So have a go at this. Always go and look at stuff that Stephen does. I'm a big fan of his stuff. There's a quiet skill to his art. It's he's like an indie Scott McCloud almost. There's a simplicity to his work, but it holds great effect, which is really good. So yeah, that's my second one. There you go.
Nice. Brilliant.
Plenty of comics for you to go and check out this week. Check out all that list, the comics from our guest this week, and more. And we'd really appreciate you listening to the show as always. I think we went highbrow, we went lowbrow, we went monobrow. We were all the brows this week.
Yeah.
But as always,
we didn't go no brow.
We've done that in the past. But we hope you have enjoyed the show and what we've talked about. If there's anything you want us to discuss further, or perhaps you've got some comic endeavours or charity fundraising events or anything like that you want us to shout out in the show, please do let us know. There's several different ways you can get in touch with us. You can email us, awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Follow us on social media. On Twitter is @TheAwesomePod. If you do the Book of Faces, it's facebook.com/awesomecomicspodcast. There's a community group, Awesome Comics Talk, on the Facebook, as well as we've got our own Slack channel group. No, it's a group that has channels in it. I always get mixed up with the newfangled technologies.
I forgot about the shout. In the shout section, we're doing a Halloween draw off, aren't we?
Oh yeah, I'm down to do that. I'm going to do one.
So you put your name in. I'm going to mix all the names up, and you're going to be given a Halloween drawing to do for the big day. So
nice. Get involved.
My drawing hang on to it. Don't post it up immediately.
Yeah.
My drawing will literally be your worst nightmare. But that's good.
There you go. So Awesome Comics Podcast on Slack. Get in touch with us, and we'll add you to the group, and you can a wonderful community of creative and wonderful people on there, such as you, wonderful people out there listening to this show. And thank you very much, whether you listen to us on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe and leave a review. Helps get the word out about the show and everything we talk about on a weekly basis. I'm trying to figure out algorithms, but I can't get my head around it. Who knows what an algorithm is? Is it a dancer? Who knows? We're also on other networks like Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife. What are the networks you're on, Tony?
We're on Pod. Timothy Leary, check out this theory. He sold acid for the FBI. Well, he weren't no website wonder. The guru just went under. You can keep your California sunshine.
And I just left a little pause there because we know what he's doing now, so you can edit that together with a backing track.
Well, if you can tell me where that comes from, first person past the post, tell me where that lyric comes from, I'll send him a prize.
I certainly can't.
Yeah.
I think he told us last week, and I've completely forgotten it.
No, I didn't know. It's a different song.
There you go.
What?
Yeah.
That brought to your world, Vince.
I thought you were doing the same song.
We thought we were doing 1 week by Bare Naked Ladies, who, incidentally, Pete C. Watson tells me is that dude who sings in that band. When they played Glasgow, he's a big comic fan, and he came in and bought a load of comics off Pete, and then Pete then went and saw the gig that night. How cool is that?
It's a small world.
What did he give him tickets to?
I think he did. Yeah, I think so.
That is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, what a dude. Yeah.
One
Bare
hand
Naked
washes
Ladies.
the
And he
other
called his
hand.
band Bare Naked Ladies, which is something we are big fans of.
Yeah.
Tony's a massive fan of Bare Naked Ladies.
Totally.
Yeah.
Why does the bear qualify have to be in there? If it's just naked ladies.
Well,
Bear.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah, but it's
ask him.
BARE, isn't it? I mean, why?
They're not bears, are they?
Yeah, but I know. Yeah, but bare naked. What's the difference between being bare naked and being naked?
Naked Ladies, yeah. Maybe there's another band called Naked Ladies. They sound like a hair metal band, don't they, or something like that?
I'll put it to the HR department.
Please
The
do.
ACPHR department, they're very busy.
Yeah.
They're very busy,
Yeah. There's just 3 people who shot themselves in the head a long time ago, and we're just ignoring the smell, right?
Tony's been wanking into a sock again.
Oh, God.
I'm about to say they're kind of like absolutely frantic, playing defensive. Phone constantly ringing in the office.
They just never answer the phone.
Glance at a monitor behind you, and now the email's just going up. Complaints.
I mean, it would be like the IT department for a fucking Jurassic Park, wouldn't it? They'd be like, "Oh God, it's all going wrong."
We're trending again. Tony said wanking into a sock again.
We will never be trendy.
That's true.
Although speaking of doing those things, Tony, where can people find you online, etc.?
Neverownanything.com, or if you are at the New York Comic Con, message me somehow and I'll meet you.
There you go. That sounds like a wonderful promise, or a bit of a threat. I'm not quite sure.
Or something quite sexy.
Oh. All of the above, which also applies to Dan Butcher. Where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Vanguard Comic, and you can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com.
Brilliant. He's still got it.
Up,
yeah. No.
Check out this theory.
Yeah. You can find me on social media at Jester Diablo, where I'm probably going to try and fail doing my own weird Inktober this year.
And what's the record for you? How many have you done before?
I've never tried an Inktober because I usually get it 3 days in and then like one day I miss it. And just
that's it. I think if you get over 3 days, you're a
what's
success,
the point?
aren't you?
Yeah. It's like starting a diet and then like the 3rd day you have a packet of crisps and just think, what's the point? I'll start again on Monday.
Oh, I'm so down.
But you can't do that on Inktober. But anyway, if you want to find out what I'll be drawing, then go on my social media because I will be doing bad renditions of classic horror actors all month.
Who's that blonde girl you like? Out of she's in the new Puppet Master, isn't she? What's her name?
Oh, Barbara Crampton.
Yeah, is she doing one of them?
Yeah, she's on the list. She's a fucking legend.
She's an absolute ledge. Yeah.
Reanimator from Beyond. Lovely person. Wonderful.
I've kind of felt so sorry for him, Reanimator, but she's absolutely in control of that scene. She's fine.
Yeah.
And they cut it just at the right point.
Yeah.
She's in that really rough Puppet Master one. You know, the one that just fucking...
Yeah.
What have they done? She's in that. She plays like the security guard, tour guide kind of person in that, yeah.
She's that one at the mall where the fucking shopping mall.
Oh, she's in that, is she? I like that film. Yeah.
She's in that.
And a really good sort of indie movie called Jacob's Wife.
Okay.
If you haven't seen that.
We're going to have to...
Is that a wife and a ladder?
We'll be busting out the horror soon because we're getting
I'm
there.
reading some horror comics. That's why I read that Sergeant Rock comic.
There you go.
Because it also goes in with my challenge, isn't it? We've got to get done by the 11th of November. We're going to read things, haven't we?
Yes, I've got mine. I've bought mine and I don't know where I fucking put it, so I better dig that out.
Right.
Anyway, while we figure out what on earth we're doing in this world, thank you very much for listening, everyone. Wherever you are in the world, we hope you're happy, healthy, doing well, staying positive, and because we love you very much. I know I do. I really love you. And Dan, do you love them?
Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah. Tony?
Fuck no.
Well, there you go. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, is it?
Yeah. I need Tony Fence sitting again.
Yeah. See, me and Dan will do anything for love. Tony won't do that.
Yeah, I won't do that. I won't take it out with Gary Glitter.
Bad reference. But thank you very much, everyone. Have a brilliant week. Read loads of comics. Make loads of comics. I'm about to take these guys to HR right now and see if they're actually still alive in that office.
Walking you there now.
But until then, come on. Get out of that chair. I'm taking you there now. Read loads of comics. Make loads of comics.
Coming with me.
And not at the same time. And as always, what should they do, guys?
Stay awesome. We came together there.
Yeah.
Not the first time. Bye, everyone.
See you later.
Bye.